Alright, it's live.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Getting the live Q&A going here just to let some people join in. We do have the comments up, so if you want to talk about something or express some displeasures with how things are going, that's definitely seems to be the theory of just pretty much everything right now. Is there's nothing happening, everything's boring, everything sucks, racing not happening, dealing with immature mindsets and people, that's for sure. So we'll see if we can get some people in here. Gonna share it to some groups. Sharing is caring, by the way, if you haven't figured that out. That's probably the best thing. We released a video yesterday, got a lot of likes, got a lot of comments, but not a lot of shares. Sharing is very important in this weird time we are in. As we are, hold on, sharing stuff still myself, getting it on out there. Hold on just a little bit more. There's a lot of things to talk about, especially with the Park Jefferson situation that occurred. You had, originally they were going to run 32 cars in each class, modifieds and sprint cars, and have 700 fans. Now they're not running the 700 fans, or not letting the 700 fans come in. They're only running the cars. And going to broadcast it live on Speed Shift TV, which Speed Shift does a lot of amazing things. So, hold on just a second. Looks like we're getting some feedback. Let's see who has joined the live show at this point. Let's see. Got a lot of people. Roy Bain is in here. Of course, we're still trying to race at on the West Coast in the Pro Stock Challenge. You know, Kyle Larson, he obviously is scared to go up against me. That's typical. But Roy Bain, obviously over there with the Pro Stock Challenge, is a race we want to do. But everybody's being told to stay in. California has definitely got the hardest hit. Restrictions, the West Coast, and then of course New York. It seems like a lot of this stuff has become politicized to where it's really not about what's right or wrong for economy or health. It's more so if one side says this and the other side says that, you know, that's what side you stick on if you're on the team member. You know, it's weird how they are separating people based on ideologies instead of what's right or what's wrong. So what is right, what is wrong, who knows? Multiple perspectives, multiple things. But Park Jefferson, of course, is still going to race as of right now. The only threat to Park Jefferson racing is, it seems like at this point, now that they've taken the fans out of the equation, is the weather, Mother Nature itself. So and Mother Nature itself could be at the forefront of all this stuff. You never know. So, getting a few more people coming in. It looks like Sean Reed, Hillary Schellenberger, an interesting name. Barry's in, Donnie Roush is in, Todd McKenzie is in, Jerry Walters, Derek Wallace is in. So yeah, that's the weird situation with Park Jefferson. Really the only thing that's going to be able to take it down is Mother Nature. In Tana Straglionis or something like that, says, if you want to live in fear of the coronavirus, stay home. Your fear does not override my freedom. Well, currently it does. Unfortunately, a lot of people's collective fear has overridden freedom, and then the political leaders that are making the decisions are taking away your freedoms. And then you have a bunch of other guys. There's one guy who is so against. It seems like so many people in media just ganged up on dirt track racing when they tried to put on this race. And like I said, I thought that was very funny and contradictory, because the only time you hear about dirt track racing besides this threat of death is when people are dying. You know, you never, all these people in mainstream media and all these places that started talking about South Dakota racing, you know, they never gave a damn to come out and know what a dirt track even is. Probably some of them the first time, and especially with some of the pictures you've seen out there talking about the event, it's like the first time they've ever heard of a sprint car before. And the only time they give a damn to talk about sprint car racing or dirt track racing is when somebody flips and burns or gets paralyzed or somebody dies. But I made a pretty good video about that yesterday, kind of saying that's relatively normal, you know, mainstream media and all. And I'm probably going to write a song to really destroy them. But, you know, mainstream media and all these different outlets, it seems like they only really care to cover anything when somebody's getting killed. For instance, with police in urban areas or areas of African Americans where there's a lot of things that go on right between police and in these urban areas and minority groups where cops do the right thing. But you never see that covered. You only see that relationship exposed when somebody, or that relationship talked about, not really even exposed. Exposed is a grab word. You only see that relationship between the policeman and the black man when somebody's getting killed, and media can use it. Just like with this coronavirus situation, you only really see, or you only really have started to hear about people dying in hospitals because of a disease until they could start using it. There's been, like everybody's talked about H1N1, and then I think it's H3N2 was involved. All these different SARS, all these different, you know, illnesses, but they didn't really care to use them until they could. You know, now it's a chip that's being played. Now it's us versus them, this idea versus that idea. It's ideology war, unfortunately. And that is, and I made that point in the videos. They never have really cared about doctors or nurses dying over getting illnesses from treating people. They never really cared about doctors or nurses or anything like that until they started dying too, and they could use them. So this is something that mainstream media is skilled on. This is something that they've done for a long time. It's fear-mongering to the 10th extent. And, you know, and they always love to say they're live. You know, live is evil. You know, spell it backwards, I'll show you. But that's a whole nother subject in itself. It's just unfortunate how people are getting and running with it. There's some guy named Moose Cannon from the Sioux City area. He's on his Facebook Live saying it's horrible to do this. I can't believe they're racing. This is a huge health risk. Well, you know, getting out of the cave back in the day, you know, there was a risk involved in going from the cave to the woods and to the oceans and all this stuff. There was diseases and everything like that. And that's something that I'm kind of worried about. They worry about our immune system and our health and all this stuff. But here's a simple fact, ladies and gentlemen. There is viruses, illnesses, diseases out in this world every single day. And the way that our human body naturally counteracts that is through immunity. Now, your immune system is built through, you know, what you eat, how you live, but it's also built by everyday experiences. You know, back when life was apparently normal, which who knows if what we were in is normal or not normal. You know, I heard somebody talk about economics, and they said your economy is really not that strong if it goes to shit in a month. You know, the normal way would be everybody has money. But so that kind of exposes, you know, are we just used to what we were dealing with and it wasn't normal, or is that really normal? But anyways, for health purposes, what I'm speaking towards, your immunity is built because back in the normal going out and living life days, you face these viruses, you face these illnesses, these germs every single day, and your body was fighting them off every single day. When you go to the gas pump and you touch the same handle that somebody who had a cold or had the flu or any of these things, you get a small dosage of that. They want to say vaccines are the cure, but vaccines is basically what I just described. It's not necessarily a cure. It's a small dosage of a certain disease to help your immune system learn how to fight it. And going out every single day like we used to go out was the way that our body naturally built an immune system. Was we went out into the world, faced different people's germs and illnesses and viruses and all this stuff that was laying and is out there. It's in this place called dark matter, or microbe world, as most people would call it. And you built an immunity to those things. That's how you naturally fought off. That's how you naturally was not able to be sick. You know, I was talking to Kevin Woody the other day, and he was saying, you know, after the chili bowl, he got sick. You know, it was bad. And I was like, well, I mean, I didn't really get sick after the chili bowl. And he's like, well, maybe you weren't around the same people, which was not true. Kevin Woody and I, final night of the chili bowl, I actually did go and sleep in his extra room, or extra bed in his room. So I was around Kevin Woody. He got sick. I did not. Now, is that because he came from New York? And because this is all regionally based, you know, that there's old school. Before I keep going around here and losing points, my point there with Kevin Woody and me is maybe it was a regional thing. Maybe because he was from New York and experiencing those germs in that region of the country, and I was down here in the Dallas area. I was at the Tulsa shootout. I did kind of feel a little ill after the Tulsa shootout, but my body was used to the germs in that area, in that region. And obviously you get more travelers, so it's who you're hanging around and all that. But technically, if Kevin Woody got sick after the chili bowl, when I stayed in his hotel room in his extra bed, he technically would have had the germ or the virus or the whatever you want to call it that ended up getting him sick. So I technically should have been able to attract that as well and get the same sickness because I was around him. But that didn't happen. There's like I was saying, there's all kinds of reasons that may have happened, you know, and you almost have to go back to regional basis or growing up. It depends on if you grew up in harsh environments, if your body's faced a lot of germs. You know, disinfection is good. It's about staying clean, but when you become too clean, you become susceptible to the natural dirtiness of the world that we live within. And I'm not a professor, I'm just talking about normal common sense. And there's a lot of weird common sense things that actually happen out there. Like, for instance, if you are naturally sick, the way that some native tribes would fight it is when you go and take a number 2 and you go poo-poo, you use your poo-poo while you're sick, your sick poo-poo, to grow food. And when you say you take your poo-poo or manure, we're using all horse and all these other horse manure and everything to grow our current foods, which could be bad, but in these native tribes, they would use your own poo from while you're sick, put it into soil, grow food or grow a certain vegetable, and then when you eat that vegetable that was produced through your lacking of health poo, that vegetable would actually help cure your natural produced illness. And this is real. This is not just some fake fairy tale stuff. This is actual health care that has been pushed to the side through profit. Now, I was talking about oil companies and all that, and right now oil companies are getting screwed. I mean, a lot of you could say they screwed us for so long, and now we're going to have to, you know, be happy that they're getting some of it back because they made so much money over so many years. But the United States is buying a lot of the oil at this price right now. A lot of our wars have been about resources through oil influence. So maybe this tank for the oil companies, where the U.S. government's going to be able to buy enough oil from them that they have resources, they don't have to necessarily listen to an oil company or any of these big powers in big oil to dictate where they go and fight and what region of the world we go and try to fix a problem. This could actually make us be a little more self-sufficient in the oil war game, because apparently the U.S. government is buying a lot of this oil right now at the price that it is. That's what I read somewhere. That's what I think. Oil is becoming a very, it's running out a little bit. If you read into fracking a little bit, that's kind of how they're trying to find and resource oil in the Americas. The only problem with doing fracking for too long is if, over in Wyoming, if you frack the wrong way, because obviously those in Oklahoma, Tom Hahn, I think you're watching, a few other people I think you're watching from that Oklahoma area, that fracking can cause earthquakes. Now, in Wyoming and in some other areas, we got these things called supervolcanoes. Now, if one of these supervolcanoes gets in contact with a little bitty fracking earthquake, that's not good for anyone, and the ventilators that we have stacked up now, we might freaking need. So, this is also, I think, what's going on here is we're going to be processing to another energy resource. Some people would question what that is. Lithium, obviously, there's a lot of positives to lithium. There's a lot of negatives. There's another chemical out there called helium-3, and that's more powerful than nuclear. But, unfortunately, it's very low resource on the ground here in the world. The closest actual resource to helium-3 would be the moon. Is this kind of a prequel to kind of pushing the oil companies to force a moon, or to support moon missions to, in essence, let the sharks lead the way, or the businessmen lead the way to the moon? Possibly. There's a lot of resources up there. Obviously, the Space Force that is coming. You're going to have pilots to fly these space jets, or whatever you want to call them. So kind of like you almost need a Top Gun again to get people into that, interested to go be a fighter pilot or to be a Space Force pilot. Which Top Gun 2, I think, does have a space jet in it. So maybe this is what is kind of prequeling right now. Very interesting stuff here in the coronavirus world. It's all I think guesses. It's all I think. Maybe Mother Nature is just pissed off that we've been used all this time, and maybe jealous of the moon because we've always looked up at her. Who knows, But that would be like the patriarchy turning into buccaneers to sell off into the blue sea of the sky to go get more resources. But Tom Brady. Anyway, let's see. Let's look at some comments on what's going on here. Cooped up and sanitizer every day weakens our immune system. That's exactly what I was talking about. If we stay in and quarantine, we're not going out and facing these viruses and these germs that are out there every day. So our immune system is becoming weak and weak and weak and weak. And when they inject everyone back out into the society, that's when one of these sides who wants this to continue, because I'm just being honest with you, it does seem like in this game that they are playing, that one side or one of the teams out there really wants this coronavirus to continue to be in existence, to force us to be in our homes, to help us never prosper again, and it seems like it is politically driven. It is pretty damn sad. I saw some quotes about a certain person out there saying we should inject, what was it, sanitizer? Disinfectant into our, and if you go actually watch the quotes of these things that are going on, that's not what happened. He just generally talked about some type of disinfectant that you can get in there, and it was more so how he talked about it was talking about something that can disinfect the disease that is within you, because he mixed in ultraviolet light, he mixed in a lot of these other things to where, getting rid of the disease without actually killing good germs, because there is good germs. You hear about probiotics and all these other things. There's several things within our body that naturally work, and it does seem like one side out there wants you to naturally fail and to become synthesized, and then there's another side out there that is, saying let's go be human and risk life again. That's a part of being a human being. Clarence Belch says Kentucky is in the house. Welcome. Dan Langley, no, I can't afford to go much, but okay, let's see here. We're growing a bunch of bubble kids these days. That is pretty sad. Injecting UV rays. Daily COVID report. We got John Rat Stafford. You rat here. 31,000 versus 28,000 new cases in the U.S. Total in the U.S. is 880 versus 848. I'm trying to understand what your versus is about. This is your daily COVID report. A 7% global mortality rate, a 5% U.S. mortality rate. I did see a very interesting situation in Texas, where I'm from. It was a side-by-side comparison. It says COVID-19 deaths. Let me see. Can I put this image in the... No, I can't put this image into the chat, or I would. Let me see if I can figure a way. No, I can't. I think I can maybe share the link to the post. Yeah, this is it right here. This is very interesting, and you got to consider this stuff. It's just like weighing out the options. Do we sell us a boat across the ocean to find new land and maybe die, or not? You know, what's worth what? And this was a post by Clark Springfield, but apparently, I mean, it's some stats. The Texas Health and Human Services says COVID-19 deaths in Texas, 543% of state population, 0.0018, whereas the Texas Workforce Commission says that new unemployed Texans, 1,020,345, which is 7.2% of the state's labor force. And this has grown. So this is something that is very unfortunate. It looks like Russ Hall has joined. Of course, he is good friends and has been sending information to a certain individual. So anybody talking about the fact that the mortality rate is around 1/10 or 1% proven by studies in California? I think it's very funny how a lot of the stats have been changing. You look at mortality rates from illnesses, and the graphs are pretty similar to previous years. But I think it's emphysema or something like. Hey, I'm dumb. If y'all are coming here for like professor, scientific information, y'all are not. I mean, there are some things that I know, but there's a lot of stuff that I don't. Let's see here. Trying to figure out where it's at. I had it wrote down here somewhere. Anyway, it's just, that's the only way you can die, it seems like, right now. It is from coronavirus. There's no way to actually die. And there's been a lot, and I know that I've talked to some people. Coronavirus is definitely real. People do die from this virus, and the mortality rate apparently is a little bit higher than usual. But the funny thing about this disease is that young kids and people that are usually susceptible to other, illnesses like the flu and all these other things are not really being affected by coronavirus. And I think I saw a statistic, you'd have to go look it up, like 80% of the mortality rates are from people who are in long-term health facilities or nursing homes or the elderly. That's something you got to think about. Yes, after the antibody test was conducted in California and New York, the actual death rate is 0.01 to 0.05. A little thing to think about here is, how long has coronavirus 19 been around? Yeah, I mean, they're saying that it came out with the bat, but, I could come out tomorrow, the news could, and say, we found a strain of nicotine in all the potatoes and tomatoes. Oh, my God. Somehow nicotine is getting into the natural potato and tomato supply. And that's and French fries and ketchup have become more addictive due to this. That's not true. That's not true. Nicotine has always been in potatoes and tomatoes. These people who make money off of it, they know this. They know that. The CDC that we're all listening to says nicotine is one of the most damaging chemicals ever to be found. It stunts your growth and all this shit for young kids. But don't want to tax everybody. And you don't want to shut down the potato industry. Don't want to shut down the tomato industry. But it's something that's always been there. Now, is this COVID-19 maybe getting amplified a little bit? You know, is it something that's always kind of been there and they just now started testing it and now started identifying this subchemical? Because think about this, the periodic table makes up every single thing in the world. Everything, like nicotine is nicotine, but it's also a combined element through the periodic table. You know, everything around us is something based off micromolecules. So, I'm just saying, like, that's just basic knowledge. You know, everything is made from the periodic table. That's what it was about. All the elements we've discovered on Earth. So, if this is a molecule-based situation that they just started identifying, they may be able to have some power on some stuff and may be able to manipulate this and that. And it seems it is very weird, the timing of this and what they're doing and just the lines being drawn, not based on common sense or hope or anything like that, but based on political ideology. You know, somebody was telling me the other day, we're talking about California, how crazy it is, and this is he was a California resident, and he is what you would call a general leftist. What I mean by that is somebody who the general public would consider a leftist. I don't really consider left or right. I consider individual thoughts and processes and beliefs. I think that's more close to what we deal with in the world is a lot of regular people, but we deal with a media box on the TV over there that's trying to place everyone into their little sheep herd pen. You know, so, but anyway, he was talking about, you know, the red states, or red, we was actually talking about the Kyle Larson N-word situation. He's referring to how I said I've heard the N-word on the West Coast more than any other place. And he was trying to explain to me how Central California, some parts of Northern California, they're like extremely red, conservative Trump areas. And then you have your Bay cities that are extremely blue. And I was like, you don't really think that this is going to maybe lean to some support for Trump in the election? And he's like, no. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, there's a lot of liberal art people who make a living. Like, this is how they eat, breathe, and die. This is their enjoyment on performing arts. You know, social gatherings, little concerts, little comedy gatherings. Artists, just like straight up artists, painting stuff. You go and put that on the wall and sell it. You gather with a bunch of people. That's how you make your livelihood. And right now, the only entity in this TV screen world that's giving these typical liberal arts, you know, progressive thought people who are literally dying because they can't express themselves, whether that's in their performances, their art, their comedy. The only person out there right now that is giving them any hope on a daily basis is this right side. That's the only one who's saying, let's go back to work. That's the only one who's saying we're going to get through this and get back to how things were. So I'm just saying, this could be a big tidal turn. I mean, it really could be. And it's interesting how things are playing out because, I mean, historically, I'm not necessarily a Trump guy. I don't like any politics. But at this point, man, there's only one person giving anyone hope. And hope is a big deal, especially in humanity. Now, a lot of people would argue the way we were living life was not necessarily humane or right or, you know, the way things should be, a 40-hour-a-week work slave. That's pretty much what, you know, society is, fortunately or unfortunately. Just because, you know, back in the day, if you wanted to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do just so they could get by and live and survive and provide for their family, you whipped them. Well, you do the same thing today just with money. But at least in this money situation, you can move your own chips. So it's interesting. I think that there's going to be a lot of turn for Trump and the right, and I think there's going to be, and it's unfortunate, I think that this virus is going to be used as a chip. I think that's almost what this virus is turning into, is a chip for one side or the other to use, and I mean, if you want to talk about germs and viruses, and it's out there, it's going to get you, I mean, it is just everywhere. Now, people rallying and fighting back. I did see a pretty funny meme. You know, the people on the left are talking about these, people on the right, and it's not all right. It's not all the right who are going out there and protesting for freedom. I'll tell you what, the first people who didn't believe in government went out there and protested against governmental control were classic libertarians, which would be considered the left. Liberals, leave me alone, type stuff. Let me make my own decisions in life. So, it's a very interesting situation, because those rallies, everybody's saying you're going to get each other killed, all this stuff. And if nobody goes out there and does all these face-to-face rallies with no mask and next to one another and no social distancing, and they don't get sick and die, then it kind of makes you look on the left, who's complaining about them doing it, like an idiot. It makes you look like you were dumb. It makes you look like you have been played by media. So there's a lot of things to concern, but it's affecting racing, and we got to give a big shout out to Terry McCarl, who's going to be putting the race on at Park Jefferson. I do feel like they were bullied a little bit into pushing the fans out of the situation. I still feel like even going up there and sitting with these masks on and all the things that they're demanding we do when we go back to the world, still is very disrespectful to our human nature. I'm not weak. I think there are a lot of people out there believe they're not weak. I think that diseases and things along these lines are unfortunate, but a lot of people are strong and persevere, and the only way you build a natural immunity to this coronavirus is by facing it. I know a lot of people are very upset about a forced vaccine if that comes, and you best believe if you live in one of the sides of these states where they're battling in this ideology war, and a vaccine comes out, unfortunately, it's going to be an inline situation. It really, really is. So I'm worried about seeing that reaction. They have just ran with this, and let's be honest, nobody wants this to end in any form of media that we have right now. TV, local politicians, national TV, national media, Facebook. How many people have seen all these ads on Facebook? Unreal. Twitter, all these people, they don't want this damn thing to end because they are making so much money on advertisement right now. So much money. Everyone's watching it. They're getting all this attention. They are loving this. They do not want this to end. Even on the right or the left. Honestly, they're getting the attention they want too, aren't they? They're getting everyone paying attention to what they have to say, and you see them basically emulate, what their side or that side says on their Facebook page. So these people are unfortunately loving this situation. But we do have to figure out a way to move on from this, It's just unfortunate for sure how this is being played. And it's not funny at all. And I'm going to try to stop talking about them, but they're affecting everyone's lives. And I think this really did open the eyes to a lot of people on who their governors are, who their mayors are, and now they're going to identify with them. I strongly should suggest when you go to voting that you don't just vote based on one side or the other going for the presidency. You need to start knowing who these people are and who you may vote for or not. Because you see a lot of people, if they're picking one side for the president, they just rail it all the way down. May not be the way to go. May not. Police is agreeing with me right now. That's a bad thing. But anyways, don't really see any comments. I did want to talk a little bit about Port Royal. Apparently Port Royal is going to be pushing their season, basically canceling it until the governor says that they can go. Now, that situation in PA is very interesting. The governor is getting basically hounded because there's a lot of Republican representation in the lower rankings below the governor. Senator, I believe, is Republican as well. I'd have to look into that. You should too. But Port Royal's done, and PA's pretty much done. Especially, I think they're starting to make things happen based on county, and it'll affect them. Jeff Gordon is apparently racing iRacing. I don't even know why that's a topic. It's pretty sad to even bring him up. I'm going to be looking to try to race still, but this thing's taking a big hit on everybody. Maybe doing some music. I've been in Iowa state in Iowa, and if you're out there running around saying that I haven't been in Iowa, I mean, that's a big issue, you know, because if you can't prove that I broke state laws and went across 3 different states, that's pretty bad, man. I don't want to be that guy. I essentially had to come here from California because this is where I'm living. This is the only place I have to live. But currently in Iowa, I think is a good area to base out of. There's a lot of racing in the vicinity. A lot of this area is not as affected as some of the others. I think the racing scene in California and Arizona and all these different areas is very, very iffy. If it'll ever go back to normal, because they've turned this thing into a political game, man. This is the dangers when you start turning things into, you know, political ideologies. This is the dangers. It's not really about what's right or wrong. It's about us versus them, you know, and us versus them leads to a lot of bad things. A lot of bad things. So, I mean, we need to really work together. I think, you know, some of the stuff that happened recently with Larson, you know, I look back at some of the stuff that I did and think maybe some of the stuff I've said is wrong. One of the ideas, or one of the comedy videos that I made here on Dirt Track State of Mind, which I have rebranded the page from Dirt Track State of Mind to Long Live the Chaz. I think we kind of do need to rebrand the Dirt Track State of Mind, and not necessarily myself, but everyone. You know, if the Dirt Track State of Mind is kind of okay with doing and saying certain things, maybe we need to progress a little bit before we get used as a chip by other racing sanctioning bodies to be labeled as the racist people, you know, and all that stuff. We need to get away from that for sure. Southern Raceway in Milton, Florida is going to have a race on May 2nd with no fans. Okay, that's a good racetrack. I don't want to go to Florida at all. Had a lot of issues down there in Florida. I don't even want to talk about it publicly because I don't want to cause anyone else some issues that they already are going through. Sometimes people have personal issues in their own life and they try to take them out on you. Shit, that distracted me from what I was trying to say. What was I talking about? You listening?
I wasn't listening. I was working.
It's distraction. See, that's what that is. A big distraction. Dang, now I forgot what I was talking about. Thanks a lot, Duffy. Unreal. No. What was I? I was trying to remember it. This is not as bad as Joe Biden. I honestly got distracted. That's pretty funny, actually. But the Park Jefferson, I wasn't talking about Park Jefferson. What was I talking about? Somebody in the comments tell me. I know I was leading to a bigger point, but that's the problem with Florida and their distractions. They don't like bigger things. They like smaller things. You was talking about being in Iowa. Yeah, well, being in Iowa. No. Things that I've said or done wrong in the past that may have been a dirt track state of mind. And there's a lot of times when I'm joking and saying stuff when I'm really applying them to me. And I'm trying to be honest in some things that may seem offensive. I'm trying to help people see their honesty and something that I can even relate to. And probably the closest thing that I could be sorry about that I've ever done to an innocent person, kind of like this coronavirus, and not necessarily an innocent person, but something that was pointed out that was along the lines of the Kyle Larson situation, was Amber Bolkin. Of course, when we were talking about Kyle Larson and the N-word, I let everyone know, you know, I've been in an interracial relationship, and I've been called N-word lover. You know, and I think that's why I can sometimes sympathize and talk about hardcore racial issues, because I've experienced hardcore racism on both sides of the fence. And Amber Bolkin was one where I pointed out maybe you should talk about the benefits of interracial relationships. Now, a lot of people in the dirt track state of mind may have took that as, you know, calling her the N-word. But really it was N-word lover, which I did not hear that, but I've been called that, so I'm sure she's went through the same thing. But she was very offensive in saying I'm not another white guy from Texas, so, and all this stuff. If you watch the Amber Balkan video, that was, offensive. So I felt like, exposing her on, yeah, you're not a white guy from Texas, but you're not a great woman racer either. And then throwing in some jokes that I can relate to that actually are important, like physical fitness. That's a big deal. I think a lot of education's needed right now. And dirt track state of mind, that state of mind may not be so positive. That state of mind may not be a great state of mind to be in. Long live the Chaz. I was talking about the image and everything like that. Long live the Chaz is almost a mocking the image, because it's almost like long live the image, the fakeness. And it's a joke in a way. Long live the Chaz is a joke in a way. Everybody got a good laugh out of it. The eye on Justin Sanders' car and all that stuff. The eyes that are out there, the T-shirts, the face. It's almost, not mocking, but in a way it is. It's making fun of the image. It's making fun of everybody being so serious, and you just need to calm down. That's and get back to what is meaningful. What's meaningful is dirt track racing, obviously. To me, what's meaningful to someone else could be another sport. I don't know why golfing is okay. I understand you can be 6 feet apart and wear a mask, but that's back to the classism that we deal with. Who's important, who's not. I do think it's very funny how all these people who don't know a damn thing about dirt racing are trying to talk about it, and because people's lives may die or may be taken away when they've never given a damn about these things behind us until somebody does get their life taken away. And that's the only time they want to talk about them. It's so hypocritical. It's so sad. It's so disgusting. I might be rebranding your name. You were talking about... Okay, yeah, thanks. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, just some of these comments are a little behind. The live that I'm seeing is the live that you're somewhat seeing, but it's on a delayed section here. Rodney Edmondson. I mean, he just made me think about... Rodney Edmondson was a driver named Skull on sim racing. And, that was a funny thing. The Ken Schrader Skull picture, it's like so old and outdated. I am personally, if we race, gonna be at Park Jefferson Speedway. I do plan on being at Park Jefferson Speedway this Saturday. Now, I'm able to get in there because I have a lot of fans. I know some people don't like that. I know some people want to sue me and take me under because they don't like, I don't know, whatever. But there's a lot of people with power and money and lawyers that like me a lot. So, I saw a few people more join in right there. But that like me a lot. And I'll be there at Park Jefferson Speedway. And I am going to try. We are going to attempt to talk to a few people 6 feet away. One's going to be Kenny Wallace, which me and Kenny Wallace have had some good interactions, both at the Gateway Dirt Nationals and the Chili Bowl. He actually recognized me at the Chili Bowl. Tony Stewart did as well, even though, I sympathize with Tony Stewart on a lot of stuff. A lot of people think I was being mean when I talked about him and the Kevin Ward Jr. situation. I'm not, man. I think there's a lot of things that have mistakes that have been made, and I think kind of nobody's really sympathized fully with the after effects of what happened there with Tony Stewart. So there's a lot of things that went on there that was wrong. Although, anyways, that doesn't apply here. Maybe even talk to Kid Schrader as well. I'd like to get a lot of these guys' opinions on how racing has went through. Obviously, Jeff Gordon ignores history when he tried to tell me that NASCAR's always been bigger than IndyCar racing. That is just factually not true. Especially when World Outlaw Sprint cars were racing for $50,000 in 1984 at the Eldor's Kings Royal, when Dale Earnhardt Sr. was racing for $47 at the Talladega 500. So some people don't either know history or some people are trying to change history. And he did kind of make history. So maybe he just thinks he can make future and past and all kinds of history. Anyway. Probably going to get off here. If there's any Q&As, anybody got a question, there really isn't much to talk about. longlivethechaz.com if you want to get a hat or anything like that. Really, really, I do need the support from fans and people. I'm a performer. I'm an artist. I'm a character in some sense, which is why it's funny you can't really sue a character. But this is a performance. But it's the most honest performance I can give for everyone out there. And sometimes people need to just laugh or be mad or whatever like that. But, you know, maybe just worry about themselves. There's a lot of issues within their own mind that they need to face. Anyways, Larson to F1. I think Larson's going to go to dirt full time. I think that's what's coming. I think Larson's going to be a full-time sprint car racer. Or maybe he'll race me in a pro stock in Northern California coming up later this year, and we can rebound him that way. In a way, you know, everything kind of does happen for a reason. And if Larson was kind of meant to be in dirt, this was the only way it could have happened, which was going down the road it went. And it could be a positive way to learn, positive way to influence the whole dirt racing world to understand the words that you do say. You know, I've been in defense of the slang term N-word with the A at the end of it for rappers and all that, because that's the origins. And when you use that word, 9 times out of 10 it's to replace dude, bro. But the way Larson used it was to replace an insufficiency. The way Facento used it was to replace a lower form label, basically. It's saying you can't do this or you did something wrong. It's replacing that word, you know. So it's just a whole nother condemnation, you know. So I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on there with Larson, but I think the bigger thing that was exposed there is how much Larson, and it's kind of helped prove my points. And this has been my point: is we cannot allow Kyle Larson to represent sprint car racing. We can't allow one person to represent sprint car racing. They literally pulled the broadcast from FS1 because he did something wrong. That's telling you right there that according to the world we live within, Kyle Larson is sprint car racing. That is a huge problem. What about all these other guys? What about these Brad Sweets, these David Gravels, these Logan Schuharts, these other people? Why are they not the representation of sprint car racing? That's a big problem. And maybe everybody was pissed off at me for saying that. Oh, it's not true. He's our guy. No, dude. Regular world's looking at you right now and saying he is sprint car racing. So, I mean, the situation, the reaction, in my opinion, the reaction has proven that I was right the entire time I've been bitching at these or saying or pointing out this stuff. You know, so it's more validity for me. And I feel like my comments on the whole Kyle Larson situation with the N-word were as fair as possible. I treated Kyle Larson just like the regular working man, the regular guy Facino. I didn't treat him no differently. Now, everyone else definitely did. And that's one of the biggest problems in the world, is treating a person with privilege differently than a person without privilege. Now, in my opinion, in today's world, that is financial privilege. That's what makes the difference more than skin color. So that's what really needs to be addressed. And just another great example was this Kyle Larson situation, the reaction to how it went down. You know, so anyway, that's what we need to get back to. And you fans, the fans need to start treating those guys the same, because you didn't. You know, and the fans move the mark. That's the deal. And I've been bitching, like I said, I don't have a problem with Kyle Larson. Never have. I have a problem with the fans. And then the only issue I have had with Kyle Larson is when I pointed out that issue, and he came on there and defended stock car racers, called them so great and they're the best and all that, better than half the fields in dirt and all that, you know. But he's got to do that. It was his money. It was his sugar daddy. But now the sugar daddy got rid of him. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. Anyways, I guess we'll sign on off here. This may be a new background every week. I kind of do like it. We got some other stuff we could throw in the back. But we'll see. I'm interested to see who's all going to be at Park Jefferson. I'll be there Saturday. Whether it's raining or sun shining, I still would like to try to talk to Kenny Wallace, maybe Ken Schrader, and get some opinions. A lot of people like my Keith Coombs talk video. A lot of people like my Tyler Carpenter talk video. So I think those are some good interviews, and you just got to catch them face to face. And I think that's what we're going to be able to do come Saturday at Park Jefferson. There is a chance of rain. We'll kind of find out if Mother Nature is on our side or not. Thanks, Mike Loomer. And once again, if y'all want to help out, there should be a stars down there where you comment, a little stars icon. It's a penny a star. It's not a lot. Or you can become a supporter through Facebook. There's a little heart icon in a box. You can click that. Or you can go to the website, Long Live the Chaz. We got hats. We got shirts. I'm kind of making some new stuff too. I got to put some new stuff out, but it hasn't really sold a lot. And I understand right now it's hard to even, have extra funds. But if you like what I do and want to be involved and, have your name on the website, on the post, current supporters right now is Jeremy Eckman, Darin Harl, Todd McKenzie, Chris Quimbly, Lissa Slaney, and Nick Stenzel. Our sponsors in there help out a lot as well. If you're on the West Coast and you need any kind of sandblasting done, body work done, Dennis Body Shop is on there. We got a link to their website that I did. If you need a website, if you know any small businesses that need websites, television commercials, marketing materials, business card designs, I pretty much am a small business's dream because I do this stuff for basically 50% cheaper than the market value. But I don't do a lot of it because I have to focus on all this other stuff. Fast racing graphics, a lot of stuff you can get on there, not only for t-shirt designs, I do that as well, but also just in general, all kinds of artwork. McKenzie Diesel, if you're in the Sacramento area, pretty much anything you need done, diesel, truck, trailer, welding, vehicle performance, lift kits, all that, McKenzieDiesel.com. Mesquite signs, he can hook you up with any kind of signs that you need done and ship them. Really good pricing for your business or your car. Also, Little Speed Shop, you quarter midget people out there, outlaw cart people, especially there on the East Coast, outlaw cart, but across the country, Little Speed Shop puts quarter midgets to the front, unlike any other. And then VONTREX, of course, Jovan Schriltz over there with the 121 car. And then we got custom cups that Colleen's Creations can make for you. What about Port? I missed it. Oh, just bringing up the fact that Port Royal is shutting down, and pretty much all of PA racing is shutting down until the Wolf says y'all can race. But Wolves in Sheep's Clothing, guys, they are out there. You got to pay attention to them. And I can't always point them out, but I can lead you in a direction. And I did not mean to point at Terry McCarl when I said that, but maybe I should. This is a creepy situation. Maybe I shouldn't go Saturday. Just kidding. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. Once again, if you want to help support, links are in the description to do so. Or you can do the little heart icon, the star icon. It means a lot. It helps things keep going. I'm finding good work here in the Iowa area. Heck, made $100 last night doing Uber in 4 hours. It's $25 an hour. I mean, some people don't call that a job, but that's pretty good job money, I think. So, especially in this time, I'm being safe. People are saying you're risking your life to go do Uber at this time. Okay, cool. I guess I'm risking my life to, hand a guy some sushi rolls and shit and give him some tea. Okay, I risk life. Okay. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time here on Long Live the Chaz, the reimagined page of Dirt Track State of Mind. We still got Dirt Track State of Mind here. It's just not the whole frame anymore. Talk to you next time. Don't know when I'll be back on here. Probably will be live at the track tomorrow night. And then we'll see what happens. We'll see. Is it tomorrow night? Yes, it is, right? Yes, tomorrow night. Sorry, losing the count of days with everything going on. I'm sure that's a similar situation for everybody. I need a damn haircut. Or am I growing out? Am I about to be Bret Michaels, Because Bret Michaels, he has the balding head. and then he has like the full blown rocker hair. Is that the way to go? And then all he does is he puts a hat on, or he wears the do-rag or whatever. Look at this hair, bro. I cannot believe this. Look at this in this frame. Look at that. Look at that. That is what you call a rat's nest. See? It agrees with me. The only question is, what is it? I'll leave you with that.